So, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Lucky. I am part of the Handmade in Britain team. We're joined by Steph Liddle, who is a ceramicist based in Dundee, Scotland. She's going to be explaining some of her inspirations, some of her processes to making her wonderful, beautiful pieces. So, just to briefly introduce yourself, could you just tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, so I'm Steph. I'm a ceramicist, and I'm best known for things like this. Work with these sort of bold graphic patterns on them. So I studied illustration originally and then came to ceramics the long way around a few years later. So yeah, that's mostly what I do. Lots of bold hand-drawn ceramics.
Brilliant. Okay, so to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about how you make your ceramics?
Yeah, so most of the work I make, so like these, like the vases and my pots and things. These are all slip casts, so I start off handily on the shelf here. I have a mould. So they're slip casts. I start off with these bespoke plaster moulds. So I kind of design the form and then I send the form that I've originally made off to my mould maker, who's based in Kent. So again, lots of posting things to each other. So I send my originals off to him and then he makes these plaster moulds for me. It's something that I used to do myself. I used to make my own moulds, but it's something that's really time consuming and space consuming. So I don't really have the right space to be making that work. So it was one of those things that is better to work with someone else who's incredibly skilled in plaster work and outsource that and frees up my time to actually make the ceramics. So I start off by pouring the liquid clay into my mould, and then it sits in there for about 5 minutes for the porcelain work, and then all the excess gets tipped back out into the bucket, and then it kind of forms a skin that's like a few millimeters thick. I tend to cast quite thin so that I can get this nice translucency to the work. And then once it's been cast, I cut it out and it comes out looking, one moment, so I grab a piece. So this is a cup. So it comes out, it's kind of got this rough edge, as you can see, and then it gets smoothed down to be lovely and smooth, and then all the patterns get painted on. So they all get painted on by hand, just using a brush and some underglaze. It gets fired twice, first in the bisque fire, and then this is my little kiln over here actually. So you can see it. It's quite wee,
wow.
but it does the job.
Yeah.
It gets bisque fired and then glazed and then fired again up to 1220 degrees Celsius. So yeah, quite a lot of steps, and there's a lot of sanding in between. Yeah, everything goes through about 9 steps minimum before it gets to completion.
That's amazing. And how long does it take you to do that, roughly, from start to finish?
Quite a long time. It's one of those things that I've never quite been able to pin down exactly how long each thing takes, because I always tend to work in batches.
Right.
So if I'm decorating, say I'm decorating a vase, for example, it can take me about 45 minutes to draw the patterns on. The casting can be quite quick, but then there's sort of quite a lot of waiting in between. The firing takes about 12 hours for a bisque and then about 8.5 for a glaze, but there's a lot of cooling down time as well. So firing alone's about 48 hours, but there's quite a few
Wow,
in there.
it's quite a long time.
Yeah, it's quite time consuming. The patterns, drawn on the patterns, are definitely the thing that takes the longest, because they're so intricate and small.
Of course,
And
yeah.
yeah, each one's kind of done with a brush.
And do you design your patterns beforehand, and then or do you do kind of freestyle?
Depends. Sometimes I just freestyle it, but I've got some sketchbooks here actually. I can give you a quick.
Yeah, if you give us a look, that would be great.
So this is kind of how a lot of, see if I can hold this up. This is how a lot of my patterns start out, just in a sketchbook. I kind of draw out the forms and then just draw all these patterns on.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I've got loads of sketchbooks with things filled like this. I make ceramic travel cups as well, which I haven't actually got on the website. And so this is kind of one that's just full of cup designs for a commission I done for Dovecot Galleries earlier this year.
Amazing.
I'll just mostly starts in sketchbooks and then goes on to the clay.
Right.
But occasionally I do just draw directly onto the pot and see what comes
Brilliant.
out.
Well, do you have a piece that you could show so we can just see your style? Just bring it out. Because I know that you're known for your bold graphic patterns. So could you tell us a little bit about where you get the inspiration for that?
Yeah, a lot of the inspiration comes from food, actually.
Okay.
So this one, for example, is inspired by rice. So they're kind of inspired by staple foods, a lot of them, but just pared down to their kind of absolute essence. So the dash one is rice. I've got these grid ones too, which again, they're very pared back, but kind of the original inspiration from them is again kitchens and food and thinking about kind of checkered tablecloths and potato waffles and silly things like that. And then the jewellery, another two of the main patterns that I use on the jewellery are the curve pattern, which I have here. So this curved one is inspired by macaroni. And then I've got a wiggly one that's inspired by noodles.
Oh,
so yeah, they're kind of geometric, pared back interpretations of these staple foods. I also get a lot of inspiration from architecture as well, especially kind of brutalist and mid-century architecture. And recently, over the past few months during lockdown, I've been doing a project called Studio Exclusives, which it's only really available on my own website. But it's a lot of them for the last batch kind of ended up having quite a big influence from kind of landscapes and nature, but again, very pared back and very geometric. I don't know if you can see them in the background. But
if you bring one over, that'll be nice to see.
Bring these over. So this one, there's a version of this on the website available to buy that has copper luster on it. But it's inspired by the view of fields from above. But it's almost sort of Mondrian-esque in its sort of and how geometric it is.
Okay.
And then I've also got these ones which are called silver birch, and they're inspired by silver birch trees, unsurprisingly. But they've got this, the kind of really pared back geometric styling that the birch tree has, and then on the bottom they've got the rings as if it's a log that's been cut through. So usually nature isn't something that I really draw a lot of inspiration from, but I think maybe over the last few months, having been stuck indoors, to get to go outside, I'm really making the most of it.
So another question is, you originally studied illustration and only found ceramics after you graduated. So how do you think that background has influenced your ceramic practice and your business?
I think it's definitely where the love for pattern and the hand-drawn comes from. When I originally started working in ceramics, it was really just another surface to work on, to draw on, really.
Right.
And that's kind of part of the reason why I've continued to hand draw everything as well. It's that love of drawing that kind of drives me a lot of the time. And I think it's had a really big influence on the way that I guess communicate my work as well on things like social media and Instagram, my product photography. I think having that background in visual communication has been really helpful to kind of help me pin down what I'm trying to communicate to people. And when it comes to things like the maybe less exciting things like making catalogues and line sheets, kind of got quite a good grounding in how all those kind of graphics programs work. So that's a kind of slightly boring answer, that, but
it's understandable. It's good. Brilliant. Another question. So every piece you make is individually hand drawn. So why do you choose to continue to draw your patterns this way instead of using a quicker technique like stencil or transfer?
It's something that I've toyed up in the past, sort of using a transfer instead, but I think when it comes down to it, such a huge part of my work is about that hand-drawn pattern. and it's about all those little imperfections that you just don't get if you use a
Right.
transfer, or if you do, they're a manufactured imperfection. Whereas I
Cool.
like that if you pick up one of my pots, you can take this really, you can sit there and look at it and see where the brush strokes end, and there's never a repeat to it as such.
Of course, yeah.
And I also love that you can get something a couple of years between each other, or even just a few months between each other, and there'll be these really subtle differences between them based on kind of how worn out the brushes that I'm using is. Like one of them will have slightly thicker lines than other ones, or some will have slightly longer dashes than other ones, and there's something that's kind of always changing and always evolving. So that's the main reason that I keep hand drawing them. I think there's something, but quite selfishly, there's something really meditative about doing it as well. And it's kind of one of the parts that I enjoy the most. So it's something that's like, I don't want to kind of automate it, I suppose. I can't think what word I was looking for there.
Don't worry. Okay, so the pieces that you have available online for purchase right now, do you have any to hand so that we can have a look at them?
Yes, I do. So these vases are available. So you can see they've got this really lovely big yellow
the bold
stripe.
yellow, really nice.
I know. Don't know how good that camera is, but you can see that they've got all these lovely hand-drawn dashes. Yeah. I've also got some pots available. So these come in 2 sizes. This is the bigger size.
Right.
We've got this lovely yellow rim. And if I hold it up, so the sun's shining through, you can see there's this really beautiful translucency to them as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
This is the biggest size. And then I have smaller ones too. So this one's called the mid pot. It's one of my most versatile sizes of pot, I'd say. I try and make them all so they're multifunctional. So, they're ideal for popping a little plant inside. This one's a really nice handheld size. Yeah. So I quite like to use them. Yes, they are food safe. So I use this size for coffees and teas as well, or, a beverage of your choice. And they've got this really nice smooth texture to them, so it makes it feel really special. Yeah. And they're also really beautiful with a tea light inside because they've got that lovely translucency.
Of course, yeah.
As the nights get darker and you've got that little tea light inside, it just shines through and it's got this really beautiful warm glow to it. The same pots are also available in the dash pattern. I also have the vase and the grid pattern as well, but I don't have one to hand. And then I've also got some jewellery on the website as well. So I make 3 different sort of tiers of jewellery. Yeah. So one is monochrome one. So hold it up. So it comes in 4 different patterns, and these have all got an adjustable cord on them. So this is the shortest length. Then it's got these little sliding knots that you just pull down, and then you can wear it longer as well. So they're nice and easy to wear, and they can kind of...
Yes, of course.
Sort of adapt and change to you and your outfit. So that's the monochrome one. There's also one, this one's called Fleck, and it's got these little flecks of copper luster on it.
Oh, I love that.
It's quite nice and subtle, and then when the light hits it, they just really pop. And then I also have ones where the whole pattern is copper luster. Ah. All the patterns come in these 2 shapes, the semicircle and the arc shape. Don't think it's getting picked up very well on the camera, but it's beautiful in person. And they all come in these lovely display boxes as well, so a little sort of matchbox.
I am loving the packaging, very nice.
It's really satisfying packaging.
Yeah.
The pots all come in a nice little sort of craft box, so they come packaged.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's really nice as a Christmas present.
Yeah, they're nice and giftable, and I usually, since the start of lockdown, I've been sending little drawings in with each purchase as well. Just,
what a lovely
touch. It a little bit more special, and it all comes packaged in paper bubble wrap, so it's kind of recyclable and a bit more environmentally friendly than using the plastic stuff.
Of course, definitely.
And it also comes with some nice yellow tissue as well, because I love yellow.
And could you quickly, just really quickly, tell us like the price range for your products?
Yeah, so these pots are 35, bigger ones 45, the vases are 75, and then the jewellery, the monochrome ones are 40, the ones with the little flecks of copper are 65, and then the ones with the full copper are 140. And then I've also got, what else have I got in there? I've also got an incredible vase with a copper lustre, brush strokes all over it, and it's kind of the highest price point of the objects I've got there, and it's a definite showstopper. I keep calling it the
Brilliant.
copper whopper, and I need to stop.
Right. Well, thank you so much for explaining all of that and all your beautiful. So Steph's work is all available for purchase right now during our event. So please be sure to stop by her shop and, you know, have a look and have a buy. So thank you, Steph, for joining us, and thank you everyone for attending.